Hi there. Welcome to Emporium Threads TV. It's a terrible name. Hi there. Welcome to. Hi there. How's it going? Ooh. Shooting videos is hard, at least for me. It's kind of weird. This feels weird. Emporium Threads YouTube channel. Starting over. All right. Oh, okay. Hi, I'm Ray. Welcome to my Hot Mess Express. Hi, I'm Ray. Welcome to the Emporium Threads YouTube channel. Today I want to talk to you about a product that I recently launched. It's not a product that I claim to have invented by any means, but it is something that has been really either hard for me to find or I couldn't find it at all in a way that applied to what I do, which is make bags. So today we're going to talk about this product that I recently launched. I call them strap and web connectors. Why? Because it is for a strap, like on a backpack, like a padded strap or large shoulder bag or whatever. Some of those large 1.5 to 2-inch thicker straps, right? Not our traditional thin strap, but those thicker padded straps, typically seen on a backpack. So I call them strap and web connectors because it's for those types of straps, and then it connects to webbing, which is typically the part that is more adjustable. So a while back I was making a backpack. I'm actually in the middle of making another one of those backpacks right now. And I thought to myself, okay, I can't find this product that I want, which is something to connect these two pieces nicely. And the pattern that I'm using calls for you to make your own. Totally fine. We would make it out of cotton. Probably couldn't make this piece out of vinyl. And I kind of struggled. I'm a veteran bag maker, not a master by any means, but I've done it several times. And I made this piece. The problem is you have to make 2 of them for the backpack straps at the point where it connects back here. And I couldn't get them to be consistent, which typically isn't something that I struggle with on a bag. You often make, 2 straps or 2 side panels, front and back, whatever, but I couldn't get these little connector things to look quite right. And eventually I did, but it was a struggle. And then even after all of that effort, I just thought to myself, gosh, I don't know that I have a lot of faith in this piece. I'm sure it'll be fine, but I want some extra interfacing in there, and I'm going to add rivets and I'm going to do some extra stitching just to make sure. And I didn't love the final execution. I didn't love the way that it was making me put these pieces together. I thought we could do this in a cleaner way, a nicer way if XYZ product existed. So that's kind of where this was born. So anyway, that's kind of what led me to this product. Making this backpack, I couldn't find what I wanted anywhere, and these are just little samples because it's what I have on hand. But basically have our padded strap here, which I'm gonna show you how I make this padded strap to fit. It's a pretty, typical normal construction method, but this is how I make them in order to fit these web connectors. So today for this tutorial, I am working with the strap and web connectors from my website, emporiumthreads.com. This is the 1.5-inch size, and what we're going to end up creating is an 1.5-inch padded strap, just like this one. It is a strap and web connector. What's shown right here is the same thing that's right here. It's just this one's shown in raw, so it's a little bit easier to see, and you can kind of get some good close-ups here. So this is the front side, what's referred to as the front. You'll go ahead and stitch on these stitch guides everywhere that you see these dark marks, and that way you get uniform, consistent stitching every single time. The back portion does not come with anything on it. It is plain, and it comes like that for a reason, so that when you only stitch through on the one stitch guide, the back matches up. If I went ahead and put this stitch guide on the back side for you, you might end up with this line not matching up perfectly with your stitch. So we don't want to do that. We want it to be consistent and nice looking. You can choose to use this as the backside if you want, when you end up eventually attaching your product. If you're making a bag and you think, this looks better, and just keep this on like the bag facing side up against like the person wearing the bag, you could do that too, as long as your bobbin thread looks nice. But you're gonna want to use this side for the stitch guide one. So today, this is what we're making, showing you how to use these strap and web connectors. Let's get to it. Okay, so in today's tutorial, I am going to teach you how to make the perfect padded strap to fit these 1.5" connectors. With these 1.5" connectors, they come totally finished on the edge. You can just use them as they are. That is exactly what is shown here. This is raw edge leather, exactly as they come to you. You don't need to cut them, you don't need to do anything. They were designed to be exactly the same on the back and the front, size-wise, so that they line up perfect when you go ahead and stitch them together. You don't need to cut if you get all of your stitching lined up correctly. I suggest to keep the pieces all lined up, either some glue overnight with some clips or some double stick tape if that works for you and your machine can go through it. You can use either or, any combination of the two, or none at all if you just want to brave it. Totally up to you. The stitch guides are here so that you can line everything up nicely and get everything as crisp as possible. Make sure that you have a good end product. So we're going to learn how to make the strap today and assemble these connectors with our web. For my purposes, I have some extra things here today because I'm making an adjustable strap. If you're making a regular strap, then you can skip a couple of these pieces. I have adjustable tri-glides here, one for each of my straps, and a rectangle ring for each of my straps as well. We're going to need those rectangle rings either way if you are attaching to a bag like this. You're gonna close this webbing off at this point when we're making this today. So unless you're making a strap that just goes like this and then it's going into a D-ring that's on your bag, and then folding it like this, like through your D-ring later. But for my purposes, I'm gonna need this D-ring for my backpack strap, or this rectangle ring, excuse me. So I've got my set of 1.5" strap and web connectors. With my 2 fronts and my 2 backs, I also have a piece of webbing for each side, so 2 pieces of webbing. And for my length of adult backpack, I cut these at about 13 inches. Next, I have my quilter's cotton. If you're wanting to use anything like Oticoat or another treatment like that, or even starching your fabric, you're gonna want to do that now. So I have 2 pieces here. For this size of connector, for my length, I have 15 inches. That could vary depending on what you are making, but I have them cut at 15 inches long and they are 6 inches wide. That measurement is very important. That way everything lines up nice and neat with my 1.5" size connector here. So 6 inches wide by 15 inches long. Next thing I have is some interfacing. You can use any interfacing that you want. I have just a cotton fusible interfacing here that gives my other quilter's cotton some good heft and just kind of makes it a little thicker but keeps it soft and supple because I don't want a stiff strap. But your interfacing is up to you. Again, remember, these are designed with the size in mind to sandwich this strap that we're making. So if you make your interfacing too bulky, it's gonna force these pieces apart and then they're not gonna sew together super nicely. So just be aware of that when you're using your interfacing. So I've got a piece of interfacing for both straps here, fusible. And then I also have some fusible fleece. That fusible fleece is cut to the length of my pieces, whatever the length is that you're using. Again, I'm doing 15 inches. So it's cut to the length and then the final width of what my strap is gonna end up being. These connectors here that we're using today are for an 1.5" wide strap, so I cut this to be an 1.5" wide. To start off with, for our padded strap, I have 3 things here. 1 piece of my 1.5" by the length of my strap piece of fusible fleece, and 1 piece of woven fusible interfacing. I also have my quilter's cotton that I'll be using to make the exterior of my strap. First thing I did, I went ahead and starched my quilter's cotton and made sure all of my edges were nice and square. For me, I like to starch my quilter's cotton, not necessary. I just like that it gives it a little bit of extra stiffness, makes it a little nicer to work with. So I'm going to take my fusible interfacing, make sure I have my shiny side down so I don't end up with goo on my heat press. And I'm going to take this over and I'm going to heat press it on here. Okay, I have my fusible interfacing attached to my quilter's cotton. The next step is to take this rectangle. We're going to go ahead and make a score line down the middle. So we're just going to fold it in half and use our fingers to score it. No need to iron. Just make sure you have a good line all the way down the middle and make sure it is straight. Once we have that, we will unfold our piece, and then we're going to take each side and fold it in toward that center line, making sure to line it up nicely. At this stage, if you have fabric that's featuring characters or a particular part of a pattern that you want to be the front and or back of your strap, this is the time to decide on that. So once you make these kind of 4 sections on your piece, you'll see that you're going to end up with, oops, kind of got off there in the middle. And it's really important that you kind of go back over that and make sure it's lined up nicely. Otherwise, you'll have a weird little bulge in your strap. Okay, so now that you have these 4 channels, if you flip this over and you kind of fold these in toward each other real quick, just kind of loose like on our lines, you'll see what you're going to end up with, which is going to be one side here and one side here. The other two, the edges are folded in. So if you think, oh my gosh, there's a really cute character right here and I want to feature that one on my strap, or, you know, oh, I don't like this part of the print, I want that to go on the part that's going to be facing toward the body of the person wearing the bag, you'll need to decide that now. Because my fabric is all the same, I don't have to worry about that. I'm going to take my strip here of 1.5 inch fusible fleece, and I'm going to lay it in one of those channels. I typically like to make sure that this fusible fleece is attached to the part that's going to be the back panel. So when I fold mine, I want this part to be the front. I just find once my strap is completed, this side ends up being a little puffier than this side because this is the side that it's adhered to. Doesn't really make that much of a difference. If you are using a thicker interface here, you might find that you'll end up with one of these sides, once it's all folded and done, being a thicker, higher loft, and so you may want that to be the front or the back. Just something to think about. So I'm going to place this in the channel here, and I'm going to make sure that it is butt up against that center line, nice and straight. You don't want it to be wonky or off at all. It's really important that this line is nice and straight, as well as this side. If you need to trim anything up, go ahead and do that. I'm going to now take this over to my press or my iron, and I'm going to fuse it. Okay, this is all fused now, and what I'm going to go ahead and do is begin to fold it, just like I did before. Really, this is like making a giant piece of padded bias tape or edge binding. Pretty much the same method. So we'll go ahead and fold this in like this on our score lines. The most important thing about this is to make sure, this is a little bit hard to see, but you'll want to make sure that these right here don't look like that. How this top one is shorter than that. See how they're not quite lined up? You really want to grab this and kind of massage it into place and make sure that all your edges are nicely lined up. So when you're looking at the strap, you're not seeing double right there on the edge. I start in the middle and I go ahead and take my clips and I'm just going to clip all the way down the edge. Alternatively, if you'd like, you can go ahead and use double-sided tape here if your machine will go through that. I don't really find that necessary. Clips are just fine. Once you go ahead and sew along this edge, everything is nice and secure. Now that this is all pinned, I'm going to take it to my machine and I'm going to sew down extremely close as I can get evenly on this edge here. If you need help getting very close to your edge, you can swap to a zipper foot, with the foot being on this side and the needle going down on this side to allow you to get really close to that edge. You don't want to skip or miss stitches or go off the edge here. You really want to keep it going through all the layers to make sure that your strap has the most integrity. I opt to do 5 total lines of stitching. I go on each edge very close, and then I go ahead and go about 1/4 of an inch in from that, right along here and here again, and then I do 1 down the middle, equaling a total of 5 lines of stitching. That to me provides a nice look. It gives the strap a lot of good structure and makes sure that all of my layers are stitched through each other lots of times, so I just don't have to worry about it, but I also like the look of it too. Let's take this to our sewing machine and we'll go ahead and sew all of our lines. Okay, so we have our completed padded strap here, 1.5 inches, and then we've got our 1-inch sized webbing. I have previously burned the ends here already to avoid fraying. And then we've got, for my purposes, I'm going to do an adjustable strap. So I've got my adjustable tri-glide and also a rectangle ring. Because of the way that I am doing this with the adjustable tri-glide, you have to have a rectangle ring. Otherwise, you're closing one end here on top of your tri-glide to make it adjustable, and the other end is getting closed here in your strap on the end of your connector. And if you don't attach a D-ring now, if you're making an adjustable strap, you will not have a way to attach this to your bag later. If you are not making an adjustable strap and you just want to connect this directly to your webbing using your connector pieces, you can do that and then use the open end of your webbing to connect to your project later. For my purposes, again, I need both of these pieces. So I'm going to show you how to attach those. If you don't need to make an adjustable strap with these connectors, you can skip this part completely and just move on to the portion where we connect all the pieces using the leather connector. So for right now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my webbing, I'm going to push my strap to the side, and I'm going to go ahead and thread this through here around the buckle, in the slider in the middle, I mean, and then I'm going to go ahead and take this, should be just like that. Now I'm going to take this short end, I'm going to fold it over, get a little bit more there. I like to fold it over not quite an inch, you know, maybe 3/4 of an inch total. Fold this part over here, then I'm gonna fold it over like this, and I'm gonna make myself a little sandwich. Make sure that you leave enough room away from this metal here on this to not be underneath your foot. If it's underneath your foot, then you're gonna have a hard time sewing it. It's gonna be a huge pain in the butt. So just make sure, you know, a little bit more room. If you need to, just cut your webbing a little bit longer, and you can always cut more off. We're gonna go ahead and sew this down right here along the edge, and then I like to sew another part here. So I sew once and then I sew again, just to make sure that my connector has some really good structure in here. All of this is sewn down nicely and I don't have to worry about it pulling apart or anything like that. So foot down, and then we're going to sew it. Okay, snippers. Yeah, and then I'm going to go ahead and clip all of this just while I'm here. Okay. And I'm going to go ahead, I just flip it over and I'll do the same thing. On this step, I'm going to use, normally you'd have a hump jumper. I don't even bother with that. I use 1/2 of a broken clothespin because I'm cool like that. But I'm going to go ahead and use that just to keep everything nicely lined up. Okie doke. That's a thing or something. It's something. Okay, and then I'm going to come back, clean up all my little threads. Say hello to my little threads. Okay, before I forget it, I'm going to locate my rectangle ring, which is here, and I'm going to thread this on to my connector. So hopefully you can see this. I'm maybe doing this right. Okay, so we're going to thread it like that. We're making sure that our non-welded side of our rectangle ring is inside the loop. That way it just doesn't, you know, show as much. Okay, look, we did it right. So now the part that is kind of folded over is on the inside of our loop. The non-welded portion of our ring is on the inside of the loop, and we have made an adjustable strap. Okay, I've got my front side of my connector. That's the one with the stitch guideline on it. It's got its 3 pieces of double stick tape on the back of it. You can opt to use glue if that works better for you, or just pins, or like wing it and pray, whatever you want to do. I don't like shifting, and if you have shifting, it's not going to line up great. So then I also have my back portion, which is the one that has nothing on it. It's also got 3 pieces of double stick tape right kind of in the same general area. You kind of see those reflecting in the light a little bit there. So I'm going to actually take my front part with my seam guide, and what I'm going to do first is I'm going to take my webbing piece. I'm going to use the open end here. Remember, I have my adjustable slider and my rectangle ring on it, and I am going to attach this behind here, and I'm going to center it. So I'm going to actually flip this over, make sure my strap is facing the right way, and I'm going to look for the corners kind of right here and right here. That's a good indication of where this line is, and I want my strap to come from the top and line up right here with this, and then I want my webbing to come from the bottom and line up with the same line right here. So I am going to make sure this is facing the right direction, and I'm gonna stick it right about there. What I'm looking for is making sure, you guys can't really see this as well, but I'm going to kind of hold on to this and make sure that my webbing is falling out straight from my connector. And I also want to make sure it's centered here in the middle. So if I turn it over and look from this side, it looks pretty centered to me, and it looks like it is falling relatively straight. If I kind of tug on it a little bit and straighten it out, I think we're good to go there. So now I'm going to flip it over to this side, and I'm going to take my padded strap that I made earlier, and I'm going to line it up, just kissing the top of the webbing, and then I am going to go ahead and make sure it is also centered here and here. And then I'm going to just squish it to my double stick tape. I'm going to flip it over. I'm going to, once again, make sure everything is straight. If it's not, oops, I'm going to just tweak it a little bit and make sure that it is as straight as possible. Otherwise, you'll end up with a crooked strap. I'm also going to make sure it's centered here and here again. And it looks centered to me here in real life. Looks pretty good. I'm okay with that. So I'm going to go ahead and apply my back now. So that's kind of where we're at this stage. Put it down there in the light where you can see it. So it's all attached with my double stick tape. And now I'm going to take my back, which also has the 3 pieces of double stick tape. And the first thing I'm going to do is line up the top corners so that they look nice and straight. They are all even everywhere, and I'm just going to go ahead and press that onto my fabric. Then I'm going to do the same thing on my bottom corners here. Okay, and that looks good to me. You can opt to use glue on these and glue them overnight if that works better for your situation. You can opt to, when I've done it with glue in the past for my testers, I just did a dab here, 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 and here, and I basically just avoided any of my stitch paths. But whatever works best for you, double stick tape is fine for me. I'm then going to just kind of look this over and make sure it looks good. And I'm happy with it. I'm going to start off by stitching across the top. I'm going to come down here. I'm going to stitch the entire perimeter. Once I get up here to this corner, I'm going to just kind of stitch over my beginning stitches here, and I'm going to then come this direction. And then I'm going to stitch my bottom portion here of the square, and then I'm going to come back up here and I'll back stitch right here. That's what works best for me. That way I don't end up kind of doing too many stitches and perforating my leather too much. You literally go here, 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 and here, then back up to where you started, then do an X, then come across here, and then do the last portion of the X there. In the end, everything should be nicely lined up. I do find when I go ahead and stitch this that a hump jumper is helpful because you do have, you know, a bit of bulk here, and then, you know, this just kind of helps keep all your tension and everything aligned here. I don't have to adjust tension on my machine. I don't have to adjust really anything. Things to watch out for are if your feed dogs are sharp. Occasionally mine are a little bit sharp, and I will have a little bit of digging on one side, so I lessen my pressure on my foot pressure. I also swapped out to a more open toe foot design so I can see where I'm going, which makes it a little bit easier. And you don't have to on leather, it depends on the machine. I went ahead and took these tiny pieces of Teflon. Most machines actually come with them. Most people think that they're trash and throw them away, but they're little stickers. And you can apply this Teflon to the bottom of any of your sewing feet that work better for you. And I'm just gonna go ahead and snap that foot on. I find that an open toe foot or something with a lot of visibility is really best for this. That way you can make sure that you are hitting your stitch guides and you get really nice consistent stitching. So I'm also going to pin a couple of these things out of the way. I'm gonna pin this over, or no, you could use pins, but I'm gonna clip it, excuse me. So I'm gonna clip that out of the way just to shorten it up. And then I'm also going to pin or clip this up out of the way, just so it's not dragging all over the place while I am trying to stitch. So that'll make life a little bit easier. Okay, got my hump jumper all ready here. I'm gonna line my stitch up on my guide. I'm gonna put my little hump jumper there, and then we are going to stitch. I also find it can be easier once you get to the corners in order to line everything up well if you hand crank those last couple of stitches. If you hand crank, then you are more likely to keep everything nice and lined up and hit your corner perfectly, and then go around onto the other portion of the guide. And that's it. We are done. So you'll pull this out, trim our threads off, and we are all good to go. We've got beautiful leather on the back, beautiful leather on the front, all nice and lined up. Okay, in the end, this is what you should be left with. If you followed me specifically, then you'll have a rectangle ring to attach to your product later. You'll have a tri-glide to make your strap adjustable, and then you'll have your beautiful connector with its lovely stitching on the front and back, and your padded strap. And you are ready to complete the rest of your project with beautiful leather accents. Thanks for watching. What's it look like if I wave? Waving? Is waving good? Hi, welcome to the Emporium Threads YouTube channel. Probably should have waved first. Okay. I'm gonna have really long blooper reels. All right. Hi,